Let me get my presentation up here. So thank you everyone joining us tonight. Like I said, we are going to be recording this meeting. So if you do not want to be recorded, we invite you to go ahead and turn your cameras off now. And then we'll be having an open discussion at the end. So if you want to ask something, you don't even have to turn your camera on, then you can just put it in the chat. But we also ask everyone to please keep their mics muted during our speakers talking. That way we don't get any feedback from anyone. Go ahead and pull this up right now. All right. So for anyone new joining us tonight, we are SRQ Strong. We are a growing group of Sarasota County neighbors committed to learning about trauma and responding to its impact. Our mission is to promote community-wide trauma awareness through healing, education, action, and leadership. And we invite you to be a part of the conversation tonight and every other month. We used to have it monthly, but now it's every other month. We like to have them on Zoom and in person. So we like to alternate to try to get people face to face again. But of course, we are so happy to invite our neighbors from outside of Florida and across the US who have been tuning in since we started going on the virtual platform. So tonight we are going to be talking about trauma and resilience in the LGBTQ plus community. And while this community faces many challenges to their well-being, they also demonstrate significant resilience. So our speakers joining us tonight are going to dive into those very sources of resilience, including having an affirming school, community, care, and homes. Also participating in political action and seeking self-care through creative expression and mental health support. So our speakers tonight are actually going to be Caitlin Brunk. Becky could not be with us here tonight from Also Youth, but we have Caitlin, who is the outreach coordinator from Also Youth. Thank you so much for being available to talk to our community tonight and share everything about Also Youth. Caitlin also has a special guest speaker with her this evening, and I will allow her to introduce them when the time comes. And then we also are going to be joined by Zander Moricz, who is the founder and executive director of SEE Alliance. And if you have not heard of the SEE Alliance yet, you are going to hear about them tonight. They are making waves throughout Florida. They are an amazing nonprofit organization that is dedicated to building power for young people in Florida. And that is moving in organization community actions, registering youth voters, and also opening a physical space in downtown Sarasota. So you'll hear a little bit about that. And then we are also joined by two local psychologists who are committed to providing support and safe spaces for the LGBTQ plus communities, their parents and youth. So I will wrap up my little introduction there of everyone, and I will actually go ahead and turn it over to Caitlin, who's gonna kick us off here. So Caitlin, I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Excited to be here tonight. Hi, everybody. My name is Caitlin. My pronouns are she, they, and I am the outreach coordinator for a local nonprofit in Sarasota and in Bradenton called Also Youth. Also Youth was founded in 1992 by a group of individuals who were really concerned by the high rates of suicide in LGBTQ plus teens. And what started as just a support group way back then, 32 years ago, has grown and developed into now a medium-sized nonprofit that focuses on empowering LGBTQ plus youth and their allies and creating inclusive communities. The youth today in the LGBTQ plus community face a myriad of challenges, some that we honestly probably never thought they would change or they would face. They face the disdain and discrimination not only from their peers, but from adults in their schools, at their jobs, and even from lawmaking government officials. According to the Trevor Project's 2023 US National Survey on the mental health of LGBTQ plus young people, 41% of LGBTQ plus youth considered attempting suicide in the past year, and more than half of those were trans or non-binary youth. 60% of youth report having faced discrimination already based on their sexual orientation or gender identity, and 56% of youth reported that they want mental health therapy but had no access to it. These youth are facing discriminatory policies, physical, verbal, and virtual violence and isolation, and they really need our help in building resiliency in an increasingly exclusionary world. So at Also Youth, we really try to focus on building that resiliency through mental health. We have about 30 engaging programs a month that feature activities like a biweekly book club, self-care and support night, talent and karaoke night, amongst others. And while these programs may seem just like their crafts or fun activities, we know for a fact that giving LGBTQ plus and allied youth safe spaces to authentically express themselves freely and do it while spending time just being a kid really does wonders for their mental health. We also have a bunch of peer-led support groups, including a gender identity support group, a disabled youth meetup, and those support groups provide the empowerment and support to those youth that they might not have at home. We also have a parent support group, and that's actually open to adults outside of just parents, aunts, uncles, grandparents, guardians. And that gives those adults a safe place to express their concerns, learn from the experiences of others, and learn how to support those youth in their life. We also have contracted counselors. They currently serve about 70 hours of therapy per month. There's no wait list. When an inquiry is placed, we match the party in need within about a week to a certified therapist, and they use affirming therapy techniques, meaning they strive to focus on the positives of being in the LGBTQ plus community, which, as we all know, we're pretty cool. They also help address those negative influences that homophobia and transphobia might have on the lives of their patients, and they provide the tools to work through what that negativity can do for their daily life. The youth or their families can meet in person at one of our centers, they can meet virtually, or they can meet in person at the practitioner's place of practice. Quite frankly, LGBTQ plus youth face adversity every day, especially here in Florida. And Also Youth is just trying to do our part to empower those youth so that they can feel comfortable and confident in their skin. And as our vision states, live their lives with dignity, honesty, and pride, regardless of their sexual orientation or gender identity. That's my spiel about Also Youth. We have a youth here with us today. Ooh, I'm echoing. There we go. Sorry. We have a youth with us today. Their name is Rex. They're a beacon of light. They're a part of our youth leadership program. We do have a leadership program for our kids that gives them valuable leadership skills. They get to volunteer with our younger youth that we call Also Junior. They get to attend quarterly summits with guest speakers. We're lucky to have had people from Equality Florida come. Rex is honestly probably one of the most authentically them kids I've met in many years, and we're very lucky to have them at our center, and we're very lucky to have them speak tonight.
Thank you. Hello. Yeah. My name is Atticus Rex. A lot of people call me Rex, and I really like it because I mean I do substitute teaching, and the kiddos call me Mr. T-Rex, and I think that is just awesome. It always makes my day. And I wanted to come here to talk about how much Also Youth has been a safe place for me. Because like even for me, I graduated high school 2023, but even when I was in high school, I didn't really have a place to be myself. Especially just because of my peers and teachers. I mean, there was a lot going on with a lot of the like don't say gay bill and all that. I mean, there was just a lot going on that was not too fun. And then at home, I also unfortunately was not able to fully and authentically be myself. But I had Also Youth, and that was a place where I could be my true and genuine self, and I really appreciate that. because I definitely think that I've seen a lot of positive growth in my development since going to Also Youth, because I am surrounded by people who have positive mindsets. And so like that's definitely like reflected onto me, and I can see that in myself. Um, I would go as far as to say that Also Youth for me provides a place of co-regulation, because I am able to talk to people my age, younger, older, whatever it may be, and I can discuss things that I'm going through, and they can discuss with me things that they're going through. And by hearing about other people's experiences and learning about how they deal with it and telling other people about how I've been handling my situations has really helped me a lot. um like I feel like I handle my situations in a very adult like manner. For example, I recently was just in a nearby neighborhood on a bike ride, and I had a group of teenagers who were calling me slurs that I can't even reclaim myself. And how I handled that situation, because it was my friend and I who were together, we just went to the HOA and just made a simple little post just saying, hey, there's some kids going around being disrespectful. We're young adults. We were being like harassed. They were calling us things that were inappropriate. If these are your kiddos, like please like talk to them about like respect, something like that. The HOA ended up commenting, and we haven't had an issue with these kids, and they've been messing with me specifically for over a year. So for me, that was like a, because now I don't have to worry about going out for a walk outside, like, because this is my home. This is where I feel safe, and having people coming by and saying things isn't the funnest. um but Also Youth has given me a lot of resources and ways to respond to the hate from people who, don't necessarily understand or maybe even want to understand the LGBTQ plus community. But having Also Youth there like literally means so much to me, because they've done so much. And another huge point that I really need to bring up about Also Youth and what they've helped me with is therapy. I have been receiving therapy through Also Youth for like quite some time now, and it has been extremely helpful, because I originally went into therapy with like, okay, I would like to learn how to accept myself, because growing up I had never learned how to be myself. So how can I accept myself for the person that I never learned how to be, right? So that is originally why I started going to therapy through Also Youth. And as you heard Caitlin she said that I'm one of the most genuine people. So I would say it's working. And then not only with that, but like I've learned so many different things. Like I ended up getting diagnosed with autism, which was a big one for me, because I've had doctors since I was little. I had a doctor who was like, "Hey, maybe autism," and my parents were just kind of like, "Eh." So getting diagnosed later in life, there's definitely some setbacks from resources that I could have had when I was younger. But my therapist that I got paired with, um, coincidentally, works a lot with people who are neurodivergent. So that for me has also been a big plus, because I've learned a lot on how to identify and regulate my emotions, which to some people doesn't seem like a big deal. But like for me, not being able to like sit down and even recognize my emotions apart, and now being able to sit down and go, oh, I'm feeling this, is such a big change from my like day-to-day life, because now I am able to like manage myself throughout the day, because I'm able to manage my emotions. And I've also been learning a lot about self-respect and about setting boundaries and different things like that, which has helped me create better and more beneficial, let's say, connections with people. So I would definitely say thank you to all of you for the therapy. So yeah, I wanted to share that with everybody about all of that jazz, because it has helped me out a lot.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
that's all.
much for sharing, Rex. I mean, and the way that you talked about how even just being at Also Youth and being able to talk to other individuals and the co-regulation, like the healing and learning through sharing your own story and hearing other people's stories is kind of exactly like how these community conversations came to fruition, was people getting together in a safe space and sharing what they had been through to realize, okay, I'm not alone in this, and other people have been through what I've been through. And I just find that really beautiful. Thank you also, youth, from me, for being this safe space for Rex and so many other youth in the community who really need this, especially in Florida right now. And on that note, I think we're gonna switch over to Xander right now, who's gonna tell us how we can get a little more active and involved in possibly, combating some of this really harmful legislation that has been trying to be passed over and over again and time again. We're met with this beast that just doesn't stop. And I think we have kind of our own Goliath in Xander in the Sea Alliance. So I'm going to turn it over to him now.
Hi, all. Thank you so much for tuning into this convo today. SRQ Strong is absolutely amazing, and I'm really happy to be here with y'all, so thank you. The SEE Alliance stands for the Social Equity Through Education Alliance. It started as a club at Pineview High School, which I actually founded in 2019. From 2019 to 2022, we grew to over 2,000 organizers across the state of Florida, which is so exciting and ridiculous, and also very unsustainable and can be very wild to manage. And that was really exciting. And in 2022, the Don't Say Gay bill arrived. And up until then, we had been organizing around a variety of different things in a variety of different groups through a variety of different methods. And this bill really brought us together. We had become known as the Social Equity Through Education Alliance. And this bill very clearly destroyed social equity in education. And so people were like, what are you going to do about it? And we said, that's a great question. And we prepared a really rapid response organizing circuit with walkouts, protests, rallies, voter conversations, voter drives. We did a lot of social media, earned press. We did everything we could to get people, one, aware that this bill existed, and two, aware, obviously, that this is not a parental rights and education bill, but rather a bill that was made to dehumanize queer and trans people across the state of Florida. After we did a lot of that organizing work, I jumped in as a plaintiff on the Don't Say Gay lawsuit, which this year we actually victoriously settled with the state. Go team, go team. Big win that we needed. And we organized throughout the rest of the year, continuing to get people on the same page about what was going on and what they could do about it. Throughout all of that, we had a lot of viral moments. One of them actually was in relation to my graduation speech. I was supposed to give a graduation speech just about whatever I wanted. It was censored. My principal told me I could not reference the fact that I was gay, my sexuality, or my activism around it. Said that the mic would be cut if I did. So a lot went down there, and we launched the Say Gay sticker campaign, which ended up reaching 40,000 young people across the state of Florida. They wore Say Gay stickers on their graduation stage as they crossed the graduation stage to show that we can say gay without saying gay. And while we're leaving Florida's public schools, we're not leaving them behind. And that was a huge action that also platformed us a lot and pushed us into a lot of spaces. And then after my graduation speech, I ended up giving a speech about my curly hair as a metaphor for being gay. It was like, hey, you can't straighten this element of who I am. Florida's humid climate keeps making it worse, et cetera, et cetera. Made lots of puns, did lots of jokes. But really the goal of it was really just to make it clear that this bill was ridiculous. What was happening to young people was ridiculous. And you also can't change human identity. It resonated really well with a lot of folks in room and out of room. And I had the blessing of going on Good Morning America the day after that. And that just sent us everywhere, including into the emails of lots of really incredible national funders who had, for the last 5 years, basically denied Florida as an opportunity. Just adding a little context here, when DeSantis won his first election, national funders across this country basically decided, okay, great, this is no longer a state for us to invest in. We're going to pull back funding and we're going to evaluate year by year our commitment to the state of Florida. Now, obviously, when you give us less to work with, we're able to do less. And because we do less with the less we have to work with, every year since, they've pulled away our funding, pulled away our funding, pulled away our support. And this is on the party level, this is on the nonprofit level, and this is on the human rights structural level. And so it's been very difficult for the nonprofit orgs here that do good work to do that work en masse. And so what happened after this speech, after we reached people, and I was able to start talking to the funders about Florida, about, hey, just so you know, actually 40,000 young people in every single district in the state took an action against this. So the idea that this is a lost cause is stupid. And also we built a lot of language around the strategy that not only on an ethic and moral level is it horrible to give up on a state in which the most marginalized people can't leave, but it also doesn't make strategic sense. We have the Electoral College in the United States. If we lock down Florida and we have that in addition to California, we're done. We're done. If we secure Florida federally, we can secure abortion rights federally, rights for queer people federally, education standards federally. We can do so much more to protect the marginalized communities of each state by embracing a strategy that doesn't silo every state by itself. And so by articulating this, and then by showing them a 10-year plan that how we wanted to organize young people in the state of Florida, they actually met our proposal in full, and the SEE Alliance transitioned from a little club I founded in high school to a fully funded youth organization, which was so exciting. This also happened the same week I was leaving for college. Ta-da! That alignment was not ideal for me. I thought that I could be the multitasking king, and I was like, I'm gonna get a staff and a building, and we're gonna build a nonprofit, and I'm gonna go to Harvard, and I'm gonna do college at Harvard and see how that works. That did not go perfectly at all. My professors were incredibly understanding because I was studying education and politics, but I ended up, there were so many opportunities to miss class, and I never wanted to, but we were invited to advise Biden. We were invited to the Department of Education. We were asked to come censor education laws. We were asked to do so many things. We were honored to be the most well-awarded youth organization in the United States of America in 2022. And so the amount of galas and award events and incredible opportunities we were provided with all mattered and all took precedence. And I realized I can't study the work and simultaneously do the work. And so I talked to my professors and the dean, and they said, you know what, you're right. Head back. And so I'm currently on a multi-year leave from Harvard. I just check back in every semester. And then whenever I decide to go back, they will re-accept me. That is a concern for a lot of people, but it shouldn't be. We're all good to go. And I came back with my incredible head of staff, Anya, who's been my best friend since like the 6th grade. This really is just youth coming together energy. And I said, hey, any chance you want to also take a year off college? You can have a job. We have a building. And she was like, yeah, I'm down because she's awesome. And now we're here. And we've been working really hard to develop a large-scale strategy. In 2023, we organized Florida's largest ever student-led protest with Walk Out to Learn. On the same day in April, over 300 different colleges and high schools walked out. And in a partnership with the African American Policy Forum, we were able to teach a banned lesson, run voter drives. And since then, that action has reached 1.2 billion people in over 101 countries, which is so incredibly exciting, with profiles in Vogue, People Magazine, and the Rolling Stone. So hyped about that. And that also secured the fact that we had 2 active high school organizers in every single district in the state of Florida. We checked with the HRC and ACLU, and that had never, ever been done before. And we realized really critically, okay, we have got to find a way to sustain this. We have to find a way to move this momentum. We can't just lose it. We can't hold a massive protest every time we want to do something. How do we make this movement sustainable? What is this? How do we move the needle? And so we brought down John DeLaVolpe, who's Biden's youth pollster, currently running around DC preparing for the debate. And he came down and he did a series of polls and focus groups with us. And so we worked in the majority of districts across the state to look at, okay, how are young people thinking about politics, how they're approaching community work? What do they think about voting? What do they think about political parties? What do they think about the church? Literally anything and everything we polled on. And we found that 70% of Florida's young people don't want to vote. We found that 80% of Florida's young people feel like even if they did vote, because of the system of government that we have in the United States of America, and specifically in Florida, that vote could never enter the political system and make a difference. And so those are 2 different but very important statistics that show us that Florida's youth voter population is disenfranchised. An important statistic that is never paired with this one, but really should be, is the fact that Florida also has the most diverse youth population out of any state in the country. So when we know that, and we know that this is the most disenfranchised youth voter population out of any state in the entire country, those statistics have a very clear relationship that no one is willing to draw the line between. So we looked at this data and we started finding a couple of other things. The other one that I want to paint just for context is that young people in Florida, but also across the country, are closer to how politics is discussed on their phones than they are to how it actually functions in its structures. And that sounds very scary and very, oh, young people don't care, but it also makes lots of sense. I went to my first county commission meeting at age 19 for work. I have been on TikTok since I was 15 and I've been scrolling. And if you're a young person on TikTok or Twitter or Instagram and you ever see Florida, I promise it is not Florida is the land of sunshine and beaches and Disney. It's guaranteed. Florida is a swamp of racists. Florida's on fire. Give up on Florida. Run out of Florida. We wish Florida would just sink into the ocean. And unfortunately, when you're a young person who doesn't want to vote, doesn't believe their vote matters, doesn't believe the government can do anything with the vote, and then you're being told, don't vote, it doesn't even matter anyways, you're like, great, I'm not going to vote. I was never going to. Done. I'm not going to. And so it very clearly showed us why in the 2022 midterms, when every state in the country saw an increase in youth voter turnout, the state of Florida remained the one that did not. That sucks. We do not want to be special in that way. And so we started thinking, how do we change this? What is our plan? What is the strategy? And we tested a lot of things, and we found that the answer was school boards. School boards. What are school boards? They're boring. School boards suck. Blah. That was my initial reaction. But what we found was that, and this is the same that the far right has found, school boards work particularly well at engaging voters because of one magic reason. The first is the margins, the margins. And not just one or two school board elections, but in school board elections from Jacksonville to Miami, the margins are such that if just the marching band at one high school voted, the entire district's board could be flipped. They are competitive races. They have not been historically invested in. They have not been tapped into. They have not been well researched. People do not genuinely care about school board elections consistently. And so school board elections have a tremendous potential to be changed. This was noticed by the far right, and they created a large scale articulate strategy of working with groups like Moms for Liberty to actually engage and activate new voter bases of extremists around the school board level. We see this model and we say, we can do this, and we can actually do this better for magic reason number two. Magic reason number two is the fact that young people are immediately and easily convinced that they are the experts in the school board arena, and that's the truth. When we think about who knows what's most needed in public schools, it's the people in the public schools. And so when you explain to young folks that the majority of people making decisions for public education haven't actually been in public schools in 10, 20, 30 years, many of them don't have students, many of them don't attend the board meetings, many of them don't talk to teachers or students or faculty or know what's going on, they just vote because they can. Young people get immediately like, what? And when you explain to them that there's no magic sauce, no magic secret, it really is just money going into schools and people deciding how much money goes to what, and that if they want to have a say in that, all they have to do is vote, flips like a switch. And so because one, they're competitive, and two, you're able to frame young people as the experts, we've found that school board races are the #1 way to get a young person in the state of Florida to register to vote and to actually turn out to vote. And here's the magic. When someone registers to vote and turns out to vote for a local election, they almost never, ever, ever just vote in that singular local election. Once you get someone voting on a local level, you have them voting up the ballot. You've cleared the biggest barriers to them doing that process in the first place. So by getting them engaged in a school board election, we're also preparing them for November 5th. And so that has been the articulated strategy. We were like, here we go. Let's plan this out. We have our connections in the districts. Let's prepare to do this. We launched the program, and I'm not even kidding you. 2 weeks later, it is announced that Bridget Ziegler had a threesome with a woman. Now, come on, y'all. Like, we were like, okay, we're going to go into school boards. That's going to be the strategy. I wonder how we're going to get people to care about school boards. And she's like, don't worry, I've got you. I totally have your back. Let me make sure that the entire country is now looking at your school board right as you're about to launch the school board movement. So I'm not even kidding. We had only been to one meeting before the one that it broke at. And we were like, okay, let's go, let's rally. And we worked really hard to get our folks on the same page that, hey, it's crazy that this happened. It's evil that this happened. It feels like a telenovela, but we don't care that she had sex with a woman because she's allowed to do that. And the whole thing we've been arguing is that she should have no say in that. She shouldn't talk about that. The job is to focus on public schools and getting students and teachers in public schools what they need, not about sex and sex lives and families and the way families choose to live their lives. And so we said, okay, here we go. We're going to try to approach this from the high road. It might go over everyone's heads. People might not care. People might just like disengage from us. We're going to try. We're going to see what happens. We deliver our public comments. Our public comments go everywhere, y'all. They go viral. They reach everyone. And so right when we were like, okay, how do we find a way to engage people in our school board movement? The internet did it for us. Within 2 weeks, we heard from over 40 districts across Florida oh my gosh, this is MAGA though. This is the one where Zem was elected. Wait, isn't this the crazy Sarasota County far-right extremist lab place? How are y'all dominating the school board there? If you can do this here, I want to do this here. If you can do this here, I want to do this here. And we heard from so many people in so many districts across the state that they also wanted to stand up to their school boards. They also wanted to create school board movements. And that number has grown for the last 7 months, as for every single Sarasota County school board meeting, we've held the majority at the public comment, and that has made a huge difference. Now, it might be very stressful because you're like, oh my gosh, well, isn't Bridget Ziegler still on the school board? I guess the public comments haven't been doing anything. Those are not the points of the public comment. We have an election here August 20th. And this is where I need everyone on the Zoom call to like rub their ears and eyes and tap in with me. August 20th, there's a school board election here in Sarasota County. We are working with organizations throughout the district and the state to launch a community campaign to make sure that the Sarasota County School Board is better and meets the needs of all of its students. We're a 501c3, so I can't necessarily tell you what candidate to vote for, but by entering the campaign and joining the movement, it's very clear to see which candidates might support your values, and supporting all students is very easy, very easy. And so what we're asking is that everyone, no matter who you are, no matter if you have time to give, money to give, energy to give, or just a little bit of one of them, to head to www.seeourpower.org. That's SEEOURPOWER.org. I'm going to put it in the chat as well. And hit the Get Involved tab. It's like one scroll down the website. You just put in a little information, and we're going to find the way to plug you in based on whatever information you give to us. But we're launching door knocking, phone banking, protests, rallies, sign waving, stickers, postcard writing, and most importantly, and I'm going to put these dates in there as well, we have only 2 more school board meetings left before the election. The reason these matter in particular is because we already know state, local, and national media will be at all of them, and these are going to get blasted out for the 2 weeks leading up to the election, meaning the #1 way to reach new voters, to reach community members, and to try to engage them in information about the election and activate them to turn out is going to be through the public comment. It's going to be by representing what's happening at these meetings as community citizens, begging other community citizens to turn out for this election, to support students, and to support students every day as the school board claims it does. So I'm going to put them in the chat, but the dates are July 16th and August 6th. They're both going to have massive accompanying rallies. And a special secret is that this Saturday, you should also all come to the Pride Bridge March. It's in the morning at Ringling Bridge. I don't know the exact date and time, but it's at Project Pride 9 blessings at Ringling Bridge. I'm going to speak there. I'm going to do my best. So you should come check that out. It's also going to be really important to support our community partner, Project Pride, who's being attacked by Governor DeSantis. And if you come there, you're going to get to see an awesome peek of the grand flag, which we will actually be wrapping around the Sarasota County School Board at the July 16th meeting. And so if you'd like to be a part of that epic, awesome rally, we're also, we have some really incredible documentarians coming down. I really urge you to be there. I really urge you to provide a public comment or just be there and speak. That is a huge way that you can show up and make a difference. And then I also urge you, obviously, to vote in the August 20th election. Tell everyone you know to do the same, but hit the Get Involved button on our website, please, or sign up for our email newsletter, because we'll send you another opportunity to do that via email. But somehow, some way, please find a way to get involved with us. We really, really want to see you. We really want to hear from you. We need more bodies. So Debbie, Marva, Brooke, William, Rich, Susie, Danny, all of you, no matter what you have to give, whether it's time, money, energy, anything, please go to seeourpower.org. I'm going to put it in the chat and hit Get Involved and join us in some way. I would love to see you. I would love to work with y'all. And know that what we do here in Sarasota authentically also matters for folks across the state. We just closed out summer camp for the day, but we're working with a team of incredible young people here every single day this summer to actually support the school board movements that are starting up in districts across the state. We also, at the end of the month, are doing an in-person convening in Tampa. So if you know anyone under the age of 27 who wants to come, we can pay for their transportation, hotel, and food. But right now we have 240 young people all coming together to get trained about how to speak at their school boards, how to build school board movements in their community, and how to get proper support from doing that. And I'm really excited for all of this. It's so incredibly exciting to see. We literally have people from every district in the state coming, and think about that, and to see how widespread the movement is and how understood the school board strategy is so exciting. And so if you want to tap in locally or even to the statewide movement, please head to the website I'm going to drop. And I'm so excited. the final thing I'll add here is that if you are one of our incredible older allies and you're like, this is a youth movement, you don't want me in it, don't come, stop it. Please come, please come, please come, please come. The thing is that when it comes to our young folks, when a young person has an idea and then another young person's like, oh my God, that idea is great. It's like, thanks for thinking that, friend. But when a young person has a good idea and then an older person's like, hey, that's awesome, let me support you, it makes all the difference. It makes all the difference. It makes all the difference. We had one of those heartwarming interactions a few weeks ago. We had it was so emotional. It had a wonderful young queer person in the space just working up on the laptop with an older trans person. And they came up to me after and they're like, I just realized that's the first trans adult I've ever met. I've never really seen us make it that long. Just dropped that. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go lock myself in the bathroom, cry, and try to continue with my day. But that is so heartwarming. And to think that that wasn't even the goal. The goal wasn't interact. The goal was do this action together. And that was just a bonus benefit that came from it. And so by getting involved in the activist work here, your presence is incredibly affirming. So I hope to see you at our incredibly beautiful physical location. And yeah, I'm really excited. Something I'll add also is we did a lot of work actually chatting with Becky. Sorry, she could not make it here, but also love Caitlin. So it's like a win-win. Was talking about like, how do we make sure that our safe space infrastructure works well together? And what we really identified in lots of ways is that also youth, to be that stronghold in the true safe space, can't jump into all of the political battles because you'll get fought right back at. And we experience that on a daily basis on Facebook, in the press, and in the media. And so we are an ABC, which is a newer model of community center called an action-based collaborative. And so if you've healed from your trauma and you're ready to take action, if you're angry about what's going on and you're ready to go get yourself on the front line, if you're ready to go to the school board meetings, if you're ready to write an op-ed, if you're ready to protest, if you're ready to rally, if you're ready to knock doors, we're here for you. But we don't expect you to be ready right away, which is why Also Youth is also here for you. If you need therapy, if you need counseling, we're already immediately going to refer them to you. So just go to them directly. Talk to them about their defensive work. Talk to them about their group conversations. Talk about the ways that they support not only young queer and trans people, but their families in figuring out how to move through difficult life situations. And I just think we're the most awesome power duo ever. So I also just want to express my gratitude for everyone on the call. And yeah, I appreciate you all. Also, exactly what Andy said in the chat. It's not just doing work for other people. It's healing for the soul and for the body. We are all, whether we like it or not, living in a state of emergency. And on a subconscious level, we can understand that. We can feel that. We know that other people are being harmed every single day in our state. And so by doing something, it literally helps you move forward because you know, this horrible thing's happening. I'm also doing what I can. Let me move forward. Let me continue to protect myself and those around me. And it's almost freeing. I wouldn't say it alleviates you of guilt, but it's incredibly freeing because you're able to see, oh, there's not only things that I can do, but I'm doing them. I'm going to put the links I said in the chat.
Thank you so much, Zander. And you, like I said, I mean, I knew it before even you starting to speak, but I knew you are a force to be reckoned with. And I am so excited that you actually, the universe kind of shuffled you back from Harvard to here and was like, no, this is actually what you're meant to be doing. Sorry, that can be on pause. I know you probably really wanted to be there, but the universe does funny things like that and really places you where you need to be. So I'm really excited to have you here and to share that passion and momentum that you have created in Sarasota and the youth that you have gotten involved, because that is so amazing. I'm in my 30s now, but you know, when I was in high school, I was not politically active. I was like, why do I care to get involved? Like you were saying, you know, we were so deterred from all the things that we had been fed that you didn't even think there was another option. And the fact that you kind of were like, no, I'm not accepting that. And you also got a whole rally of people behind you that are like, we're not accepting that. There's a better way out of this. It's really amazing to see. And I love the collaboration, like someone was saying in the post in the chat there, the collaborations between organizations going on here and just feeding off of each other. And you know, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. You can just come together and make the whole cart go, you know, keep that movement going. But we have two other speakers that I want to move on to now because I'm really excited to keep this conversation going because Xander kind of ended on, you know, learning how to move through those difficult situations. And I think Emily and Essence are the best people to talk about exactly how to do that and how to provide that support for our community. So I'll turn it over to you two.
Thank you, Annalise. So, if anybody knows us, we like tag team a lot of stuff. So I'm gonna go first and talk a little bit about the importance of like affirming therapy in an individual sense, and then Essence is gonna come in and talk about like the bigger systemic impact of affirming therapy. But I'm a licensed psychologist and the director of community engagement with customized behavioral health care, and we are a family-owned mental health practice that really focuses on meeting the needs of our community, which means being affirming and safe providers for everybody. And I think Rex hit on it, Caitlin, you hit on it, Xander hit on it, is the importance of having affirming providers. And that's honestly like what you would hope would be the expectation going into therapy, but it's not. And it's unfortunately like not the case for a lot of people's experiences going into therapy. Is there's a lot of hesitation, there's a lot of second guessing, there's a lot of I'm going to drop this piece and see how my therapist reacts, and hopefully it's like safe enough and I can keep going. And when we talk about trauma within the LGBTQ plus community, we not only have to talk about like individual trauma, but like systemic community trauma that goes in. And that's recognizing that like therapy has not been a safe place for queer people. As early as like 1987 was when the American Psychiatric Association removed homosexuality from its list of mental disorders. 1987 was the time that we decided that it was no longer a mental illness to be gay. So we're talking about there's still providers out there who were trained with that knowledge. There are people who were being supervised by supervisors who had that knowledge. And so being an affirming provider and just recognizing that there's collective trauma in coming into therapy, that therapy has historically not been a safe place. Even talking about specifically like in Florida, conversion therapy is still very much a thing that is practiced by licensed providers. You go in thinking that you are going to get help, and that person is impacting you in a way that is traumatizing. There's a statistic that says around 700,000 US adults reported that they were subjected to conversion therapy. Half of those adults were subjected to conversion therapy as children. 2 years ago, a study came out that showed that 16,000 LGBTQ plus youth, or in like 13 to 17, were subjected to conversion therapy by a licensed provider. That's not someone like random. That is someone who is licensed by a state saying that you can practice mental health therapy, and they're subjecting people to this trauma. And so recognizing that when clients come in, when people come in seeking therapy, that like being an affirming provider is more than just sitting back and waiting for them to ask the right questions. It is going out and saying, I am here for you. I am here for every part of your identity, and I'm here to support you. And sometimes being an affirming provider means working with an LGBTQ plus individual. Sometimes being an affirming provider means working with the families. Everybody has a process. One thing that I teach to all my clients who are loved ones of LGBTQ plus individuals is when your loved one comes out to you, you are joining a race in progress. They have had a process well before they chose to let you into that process. It is never your job to get to where they are instantaneously, but it is your job to figure out how you're going to finish that race with them. And so taking the time, giving space, making sure that everyone has a voice, everyone has a process, and there's no shame in having a process is a great first step to being an affirming provider. One statistic that like blew me away is the difference between having high rejection families, moderate rejection families, and low rejection families. That was something until like I started really training to work with the LGBTQ plus population was something that was never talked about, is the spectrum of rejection that can occur within families. And when we talk about resilience, the shift between a high rejection family and a moderate rejection family is astounding. High rejection families would be like, you get kicked out of your home. You are not able to be you. You are constantly dead named, misgendered. Your identity is just not accepted. You're at risk for like access to housing, financial support, food, a lot of like insecurity that comes with it. Moderate rejection families often look like you can be out in some ways. You can't be out to everyone. You might be able to do this. You might not be able to do that. Your housing or access to support might not be as heavily impacted, but you're still not able to fully be you. And what the research shows is that individuals from high rejection families, I'm going to read this because I think it's so important, are 8 times more likely to attempt suicide, 3 times more likely to contract HIV, and 3 times more likely to use illicit substances. So those are individuals from high rejection families. If you go one step down to moderate rejection families, the risk factor for suicide attempts goes from 8 times more likely to 2 times more likely. Just such a simple shift in mentality, working with the family, processing, helping parents understand, get the lingo right, to give them education on the history of what it means to be a queer individual, to help them understand, okay, you might not be at the point of accepting, but you can be at the point of affirming. Drops that significant factor from 8 times more likely to 2 times more likely. We see that the risk of contracting HIV goes from 3 times more likely to 1.5 times more likely. The risk of using illicit substances goes from 3 times more likely to 1.25 times as likely. That's such a significant shift in such a small mentality change. And that's something an affirming provider can do. That's the importance of coming to therapy. You might not get all the way there, but if you can get some of the way there, we see that that benefits not only the person sitting in the therapy room, but the individual in that family who's also going to be impacted by their family members' words. So just being mindful of all those things, I think I always look for tangible things. What can I do to support the people coming into my therapy space? How can I signal to them that I'm a safe person, whether it's in my role as a psychologist or in my role as a person? And so some things that I think everybody can do: put your pronouns in your email signature, put your pronouns in your Zoom name. If you take the guesswork out of it, that opens up the door for so many more conversations. And for some people who maybe don't feel comfortable disclosing their pronouns until someone else says theirs, that opens the door for them to know that you're a safe person and that you're going to respect whatever they put down or whatever they tell you their pronouns are. Asking for names. A rule of thumb that I go by in my life is they, them until proven otherwise. If you don't tell me your pronouns, I will use they, them until you tell me differently. And that's a good way just to like create the space. A lot of like cisgender heteronormative biases impact people. We don't think about it. We just default to what we've always been taught. But that mentality shift can signal so many things to people who need to hear that message. Having safe space markers, pride flags, just being smart about what's in your space around you. Maybe you don't always feel comfortable like throwing up a pride flag, but like having some kind of rainbow signaling or anything like that that shows that you understand the necessity to signal that you are a safe space. It makes you just an affirming person in general. Zander talked a lot about educating yourself on the laws, the legislation, what is impacting the queer community. If you can name it, that at least gives you knowledge to know that that's impacting people maybe more than you thought about. You can understand the stress that gets built up for someone who is part of a marginalized group. And the last thing that I always preach people and I try to live by too is ask questions. If you don't know, it's so much better to ask. Take the time, ask the questions, get the feedback, have conversations. The way we learn is by having conversations. Like that is the best way to do something differently, is if you're impacting someone, you could be a part of their trauma experiences, but you could also be a part of their healing experience. Like that is our job. Is we might not recognize the impact or be intentional about hurting someone, but that doesn't mean we didn't hurt them. But if we can be intentional about helping them heal or helping them have conversations or be a restorative part of their journey, then that's like the obligation we have by being an affirming person. So just like things to think about, whether like you need some support therapy services or, you know, someone who needs support for therapy services, like taking the time, look at people's social medias, look at their bios, look at what they write, what they post, what they share. Those are all things that can signal if like that fit is right for you. But those are just some like individual tips and ways to think about how therapy could be an affirming space. And I know Essenskin is going to talk a little bit bigger picture now.
Thank you. So Emily and I, well, Emily's my fiance, but we also trained together. And I think that that's important because both of us came to Sarasota from Palm Beach County, which is one of the best. I mean, a lot of people don't know about like the county mental health process, but if you need to know anything, they take care of their people in Palm Beach County. It is a beautiful model. And I grew up in Ohio. So when I moved to Palm Beach County, I was like, okay, Florida is actually like doing all right with how they take care of their people. And then we left Palm Beach County and I was like, no, it was just them. Everywhere else is like not doing great. But I think that what it did was it really like skewed, I think, my understanding, I can't speak for her, but I think both of us kind of had bigger expectations for what the world was going to look like, becoming a licensed psychologist and moving out of being like an intern. And I think that in the past couple years, as I've been practicing, I've just realized that like that's not always something that everybody is thinking about. But I think it's really important, and that's what I kind of want to focus on, is talking about how individuals do not exist in isolation. And our experiences are all shaped by our interactions with multiple systems. So Zander talked a lot about like policy, and Emily talked about family, but also things like workplaces, our school systems, religious institutions, and just kind of your community and the culture that you exist in as a whole. It's going to influence you as a person. And I think that it really comes down to, when we think about like the culture of a community, it comes down to policy and what like the norm or what the accepted behaviors of the people in that space are. And that's something that we should all really pay attention to. There's like the education aspect of what is being taught, what is being encouraged, what is being kind of like imparted as the right way to do things. And then also just how we cultivate a community and how people are included or excluded based on their identity or things that we want to pay attention to. And so I think when it comes to thinking just policy, we know that LGBTQ plus students in schools with inclusive policies, so they don't have to be like anything crazy, but just some type of policy that is inclusive, are 30% less likely to experience verbal harassment, 21% less likely to be truant from school, and 18% better at performing with like their school outcomes. This is not just in schools, it's in workplaces as well. So we see that workplaces that have very clear non-discrimination policies see a 25% increase in performance for everybody that's at the workplace, and a 35% decrease in turnover. So as we're thinking about the policies and you wanting to like participate, as Zander said, talk about like looking at voting and looking at those kinds of things, but also think about like your workplace and your community, and the places that you are a part of. So kind of like the middle between the big government and kind of your family, that part of society matters too. As I was kind of thinking about what things I wanted to focus on, I came across a study that talked about what the training of professionals looks like. And about 88% of medical students in one study I looked at reported that they never got any type of training on how to interact with LGBTQ plus people in terms of like language and communication, not even about like the medical stuff that they're doing, but just like bedside manner type things. And I think that if we're talking about shifting the culture of our community, then this shouldn't be a place, especially with what we know is going on with the school system, that might not be the place that people are able to learn those things, but that doesn't mean it's not important. And so as you're thinking about how you can contribute and how you can build up the community, maybe it's just educating the people in your sphere of influence about inclusive language, or it's highlighting like, hey, you could actually think about it this way, or I'm going to send you an article or a video. Anything that you can do to help kind of educate people to have more information goes a long way. We also know that I think that sometimes there is a tendency for agencies or places to look at LGBTQ plus as like its own group, and we fail to really consider the diversity that exists within this group. And I think that being a sexual minority versus a gender minority is a completely different experience. And we want to make sure that we are learning about those things and looking at it in a comprehensive way. And so when we start to look at like how identities overlap on top of one another, the term there is intersectionality. And taking an intersectional approach where we're looking at, okay, how does your gender identity impact how you show up in the world? How does your race impact? How does your ability or disability, mental health, SES, all of those different facets all kind of work together to impact the way that we show up in the world. And that's something that we do a lot in the trainings that our agency provides in organizations, is being able to help people to reflect on their own identity and the identities that are present within like their organization or their workplace, and talk about how does that impact not only the way that you show up in the world, but how you interact with your coworkers and that kind of thing, and the people that you're serving. And I know that there's a lot of agencies in Sarasota and in the area represented here, and I hope that that's something that you're thinking about, is like who's on your team, and how does that influence the way that they interact with each other and how they serve the people that you are trying to serve. We know that taking an approach that's comprehensive, so looking at things like cultural competence, understanding the challenges that are unique to LGBTQ plus individuals, and trying to come up with strategies to create affirming environments are the best way to do it. And so we want to kind of wrap around these issues and not just simplify them, because they're complex, but they can be kind of broken apart when we work together. When we're thinking about community, organizations, nonprofits, schools, and clubs, and those things all play a really important role in building resilience, because they combine that comprehensive approach. They include things like education and advocacy, as well as emotional support, counseling, and creating things that meet the needs that are specific to those individuals that they're serving. And so I think if you find that you have extra time to give or volunteer, or you want to give back, or you have the finances to contribute, really supporting the local organizations that are around, that are doing the work that is consistent with your values, does make a difference. In fact, we know that even just having staff in schools that support like gay straight alliances increase feelings of safety and belonging among students by 15%. So literally just knowing that people care and support you as an individual does make a difference. And so I think it's really important that we use our voices to make that clear. Overall, we know that people belong to multiple groups of things. So we want to take an intersectional approach. We want to approach those things combining kind of intersectionality with a celebration of differences, not expecting everybody to see things the same way or feel the same way about things, but really trying to tailor the work that we're doing with people to the context that they're existing in. So that means that you have to be informed. If you are trying to really help people in the queer community and you have no idea what's going on in the law, you have no idea what's going on with the school system, you have no idea what's going on with anything that is impacting them, then you're not going to be very useful. And so making sure that you take on that personal responsibility to educate yourself, and then take it a step further to educate and impact your sphere of influence is really important. And I think just kind of the last point that I want to highlight here is a lot of things that we've talked about are like reactive. And intervention wise, we're talking about, okay, well, what do we do by the traumas that have been experienced by people that are queer and everything? But ultimately, if we do prevention right, then we don't have to worry about intervention. And so I think that as everybody has spoken and talked about the different aspects of things that are harmful to the LGBTQ plus community, we can also think about how do we prevent that, rather than trying to like support people after the fact. Think about what you can do now that would reduce the likelihood of those harmful things even happening. And when we do that, it will address the root cause and it will foster resilience before they even have the opportunity to encounter trauma. I mean, I think as a psychologist and as a queer woman of color that has a chronic illness and mental health, has navigated my mental health struggles, like I know the importance of being able to take an approach that is both supportive and preventative. And I would encourage you to think about the people that you're interacting with, and see how you can lend a hand and support them as well. That's all.
Thank you so much, Essence and Emily. We are so grateful to have you in our community, even though you had to bounce around a little bit to find a new place to call home. We're glad that it was Sarasota and with our community. Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you, Rex. Thank you, Xander. All of you. I mean, I'm sure you've probably seen in the chat the people that were just as excited as I am, you know, for you being here in our community and you providing these safe spaces and supports to the LGBTQ plus community and the youth, especially because as you were saying, you know, the preventative part is much better than the afterwards because if we can catch it before it even they're like you said before they even experience those traumas or build up that resilience before something like that is even they're even faced with something like that in their everyday school, home, community, whatever it be, as long as they're prepared and feel prepared and have that those tools in their belt, then we're doing what we're meant to do, which is prepare our youth to go into this world with resilience. And I'd like to open it up to the community now that we've wrapped up our speaker portion. You're welcome to raise your hand or turn your camera on if you have anything you'd like to share or ask our speakers. I know it was a lot of information and in a short amount of time. Let's see a new message down here. Susie, thank you all for sharing so much. Does anyone have any questions, maybe on any of the action pieces that were shared or any questions for our special guest Rex?
I do want to plug something real quick, just kind of
Yeah.
backpacking on what Essence said. So I didn't mention it, but also youth does do community-based trainings. They can be provided at no cost. They are designed specifically to increase your organizations, businesses, groups, private club, whatever you have. It's designed to increase your proficiency of the knowledge of the LGBTQ plus culture and terminology. I'll drop my email in the chat, but there's more information available on our website as well if anybody who is part of a local business is interested.
Thank you, Caitlin. I think I saw Joy might have had a comment or question.
Yeah, I was gonna ask Xander about the event like Saturday. Is that the one like in Sarasota that's gonna be talking about like trainings on like how to speak to like board members and stuff? Or
No, phenomenal question. I'm going to drop that in here now. This Saturday is just a direct action. We're all going to show up. We're going to have rainbow lights and rainbow flags, and we're going to be like, the bridge is gay, even though the governor said the bridge cannot be gay because it's a very gay bridge, whether he likes it or not. But what I am going to drop in the chat is what I believe you're asking about, which is our strategy sessions. So every Tuesday, except the third Tuesday of the month, so the first, second, and last Tuesday of every month, it will always be that way. We have a strategy session at 3 p.m. or 3:30 p.m. over here at SEE Space Sarasota. So I'm going to drop that info for y'all in the chat. I would love for y'all to be there if possible. The ones before July 16th and August 6th will be incredibly important for y'all to be at. But these are how we prepare as a group, get ready as a group. We go over talking points. We go over the agenda. We share everything with one another. And then you can come and you can have your speech pre-written, or you can come and you want to write your speech with a partner. No matter what it is, we help make sure that you're ready to give your public comment in a way that feels natural and authentic to you, and in a way that doesn't set you up to be bullied or attacked by evil people online and or in person. But the strategy sessions are also just some of my favorite conversations to have because they're full of some of the best community members ever. And they are just sharing so much wisdom and insight, and people will come having done so much research and with so many ideas and with documents and with new policies and with emails to send. And it's the best. They always run over and they're always so much fun. So I'm going to put the info for them in the chat right now. But remember, the next two meetings are the 16th and 6th, July and August. And strategy sessions are the first, second, and last Tuesday of every month at SEE Space Sarasota, which is down here in Bird Square Court at 615 South Orange Ave. I expect for you to remember none of that and put it all in chat.
well, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Xander. Let's see, we've got some more in the chat here. Oh, thank you. Emily went ahead and put their website in the chat there. And then we had a comment from Danny, coming from a community where I was totally involved and feeling out of touch since moving here. This was super informative. Thanks so much to you all. Well, so glad that you joined us. Thank you for the comment, Danny. Does
I
anyone
had
else?
I had a little
Hudson.
question. It was, how do you deal with an instance of homophobia like that you receive? And I think it can be a little bit different online versus in person in the first place. But how do you react? What do you do to combat that, I guess? This is for any of the speakers to.
I'll give an example. So I'm the outreach coordinator for Also Youth. That means I attend Healthy Teens Youth Health Awards, and I attend a art market. I attend Bradenton Farmers Market. I'm lucky. I started with Also Youth in February, and since February 7th, my first day, I've only had one negative comment. But in my previous job, I was trained in a lot of de-escalation. I was trained in a lot of verbal jujitsu, learning how to get voluntary compliance. And I think honestly, the best way to deal with something in person that I've learned is just not to interact. Most people were kind of lucky in this day and age. Most people are really comfortable being hateful behind a screen versus in person. But in person, mostly they just want to be heard. They want what they're saying to be heard. They want it to have a reaction. They want to incite you. They want to get you angry. They want you to feel the hurt and the pain that they're feeling. And if you just don't let that happen, it kind of fizzles the situation out itself. So I think personally the best way is just to not react. You just got to take it as it goes and learn some de-escalation techniques.
I think the like message of like managing those reactions is so important, because in the moment you're allowed to have an external and an internal response. And that is having that external response to de-escalate the conflict, get to a safe space, and then having a safe space to be able to process like how that impacted you. I think that's one of the messages that I think is so important, is to talk about is like, you're allowed to be hurt by that. Like on the outside, you can manage, de-escalate, do what you need to do. But like if you're hurt, you're hurt. And that's a valid reaction. And being able to recognize I'm hurt, and is there a way I can seek more support in those? Can I talk to a trusted adult? Can I talk to someone in the organization who can offer me support? And if there isn't, going to those external resources, making sure that you have a support system outside of whatever environment that is in, that you can lean on, process with. And also have someone to validate that that is an uncomfortable and an unnecessary experience, and you're still allowed to be impacted by it. So like echoing on what Caitlin said, that external response is important just as much as that internal response is too.
I think I would just add and echo what the two of them said, but I also think that it speaks really to the importance of having allies and having community, because a lot of times behaviors like that happen because they don't get checked. It's okay. And so I think that as we're kind of engaging in allyship too, we can prevent people feeling comfortable to say things like that or do things like that. I used to work with I worked at a residential facility with like teenagers, and I hope no like 13-year-olds are on here, but if they are, like 13-year-olds suck sometimes. They're so mean and like judgy and just they're like intense. And I remember like I had tried so many approaches. I'm a big sister. Like I had tried so many like different strategies to be like, that was mean. Don't say that. Like, don't talk. How would you feel? And the only thing that worked is when I acted disgusted by the way that they were rude to other people. And they would say something, I'd be like, you really think that's okay? Ew. And that changed everything, because I think that it really causes people some like discomfort when you do not approve of that. And so we can create and do our parts to create an environment where people don't feel comfortable to say things. And maybe if it's happening to you right in that moment, you might not be the best person to have that reaction. But if it happens and it's not directed at you and you can be a part of making people uncomfortable with being mean, like somebody's going to be uncomfortable and it shouldn't be you. So make them uncomfortable with the way that they're talking to you. Maybe not the kindest approach, but it has been effective.
This makes me feel so smart, but I was literally about to say exactly what Dr. Rivers said. So just exclamation points after that. It literally the exact same word, like disgusted. When like that, I have nothing to add. That's all that we've ever found is works, because it's like when you're bullying, it's a survival instinct of like, okay, I'm going to affirm where I am in the society, in the social standing, in myself, to my friends. Like if someone has been if someone in their life or family is like saying something homophobic and then getting backed up for it, they're looking for that backup. They're looking for that emotional reassurance or that like, yeah, I am better than those gays. And so if you're like, if you almost like give them no care, if you don't like, you can't get angry, because if you get angry, they're not going to be like, wow, they're angry because I said something wrong. They're gonna be like, yeah, of course I triggered that snowflake. And if you get sad, they're not gonna be like, wow, I hurt their feelings. They're gonna be like, yeah, I triggered that snowflake. But exactly what Dr. Rivers said, but when you get disgusted, it's almost like why don't you care? It's like, I don't care about what you said. I care that you're still around me. And it's just, yeah, that.
Yeah, I'll back both of them up with I had someone give me that very advice to just say like, basically like, surprised you feel that saying that in front of me, or like, what makes you think like I'm the person you can say that to? And I was like, this is an actual moment where I can utilize this. And when I tell you, the person was speechless and just walked away, and I was like, okay, so like there wasn't any like anger or fighting, but they might have like reflected and been like, or at least in the moment that, it literally like stopped them in their tracks. So I'm glad to hear that that is a technique that is actually working. While it may not be, what we want to say in that moment, we probably want to say a lot more. It's definitely something that works and de-escalates any kind of situation that, could go further or continue to be harmful.
Essence touched on how you might not be able to speak up if it's against you in that moment, but maybe if you're witnessing something, you do feel compelled to speak up. And I think it's important to talk about the difference between an upstander and a bystander. So bystanders can be important. Bystanders, they are witnesses to discrimination, they are witnesses to hardships, but an upstander is somebody who doesn't just witness, they take a step to make it end. And I think always safety first, but if you're willing and you have the wherewithal to be that upstander, that really comes in handy, because there could be somebody who is facing that discrimination who can't react in that moment, who has no response but the fawn response. But if you yourself, kind of like Zander said earlier, they're an action people, they're ready to fight, let's go, let's do this. And if you find yourself in that situation, by all means be an upstander. Don't be a bystander, be an upstander.
I lied. I have one more thing to add. Also, sorry for the location change. Our band book club just started. You can sign up for that in the Mobilize link as well. It's also okay if you don't actually feel disgusted. Like, you can feel horribly hurt and horribly sad, and like, it doesn't make your reaction any less valid or strategic, even if it doesn't feel authentic in that moment. Like, it's okay if you aren't able to in that moment explain to yourself, they don't know what they're talking about, I'm valid, I'm awesome. Like, it's okay if it actually gets to you. Just as best as you can, don't give them the reward. Like, don't give them what they're looking for. Go back to like a moment where you can safely unpack your thoughts and debrief with someone you trust. And that's where you can kind of be like, this was horrible. This hurt me so bad. I can't believe someone said that. Like, I do that all the time. We'll have horrible people say horrible things to me. And in the moment, I'm like, whatever, loser. And then we'll come back to the SEE Space. And I'm like, why could they say that? Why did they think that? And it's just, that helps move on in a safe space.
Thank you for that addition, Zander. Does anyone else have any comments or questions for any of our speakers, or just anything that they'd like to share after being here this evening? We have another in the comment. Here we go. Thank you for the information and wonderful comment. Thank you for sharing the links and resources to help with being more inclusive and informed in best practice, building respectful relationships and raising awareness. Of course, we're so glad that we could provide resources, information, and amazing speakers for you tonight. Anybody else? All right. Well, we still have about 10 minutes, but we can wrap it up if no one has anything. I think I saw Healthy Teens. Did you turn your mic on there?
I did. I was just gonna add, I moved here from Oakland. I moved back about 10 years ago, and I've been so needing this type of space and this type of community. during that time. I had pretty much given up that I was going to find it at all in Sarasota. So it's really it's invigorating, it's empowering, it's affirming to hear from all of you and to know that things are going on and that people are resisting and that people are doing things and getting things in motion, and giving us the information to be a part of that. So I just wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you so much for adding that. We really appreciate hearing that. And like I know, like Zander was mentioning earlier, sometimes when you hear from, older people in the community, it really is, an amazing thing to see when you have that crossover, that intersection between, youth and adults in the community. And it really does help bring that, like you said, that hope to that Sarasota is a place for all.
Yeah. I came out in the 70s in Miami, and this looks so scaringly like it did then in so many ways. So it's important to remember the pendulum as well, and all of the gains that have been made, that we have made as a community, and that those gains are coming back.
Well, thank you for your comments, Gina. Did you have something to add, Caitlin?
Yeah, well, a little bit of a shameless self plug. If you are a queer elder, we do need you. I'm speaking as a queer adult that turns 30 this year. I didn't have a queer community before I moved to Sarasota and started my job in February, but Rex can testify to this. Our youth who are queer, when they see a queer adult, it's like seeing Santa Claus. It is magical. It is affirming for them. They look at queer adults and they go, oh my gosh, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I see myself, I see you. And if you at all have the wherewithal to be Santa Claus just by showing up, come volunteer at Also Youth, because our kids, they really need to see queer adults. It makes their lives just a little bit better knowing that there's some place for them to go in the future.
Absolutely.
It looks like we have a question in the chat here. I'll go ahead and read. They asked, what is a way to get involved as a college student if you don't currently live in Sarasota? And they asked for any speakers that want to take that question.
Hit the Get Involved tab on our www.sierrapower.org. If it's not in the chat still, let me know and I'll get it to you. And there's going to be like a at-home option or virtual option. And even if it doesn't feel like it applies to you, we have a whole cohort of folks who help from out of state. And who knows, if you stick with it long enough, we'll fly you out or something. We've had someone in California who's worked with us virtually for the last 2 years, and they're with us for the whole month of June. And they're actually staying at Andy's. God bless you, Andy. So who knows? Join us virtually and I might see you in a year or two.
You can also Google Centerlink. They are a nationwide organization that works to link all LGBTQ centers in the nation. So if you are in any of the 50 states, give Centerlink a Google. They do have a map of all of the LGBTQ centers. So hopefully you'll be able to find one.
I also think that you can get involved, like if you're just trying to figure out like what you can do to like help the community. If your school has like student government or has different things like that, it's a really good way to understand. I like wandered into student government one day. I was like, somebody's like, I'm going to a meeting, you want to go? And I was like, sure, whatever. And like that's how I got in. So I didn't go looking for anything like that in college. But it really helped me to understand like how politics works and how voting works and like what is happening in a bigger side of things. And then it also helped me to figure out like how to talk to people like other students and what do they want and do different things like that. So I think getting involved in like that, or if you have a LGBTQ plus center on campus, I would definitely look. I'm sure there are people there that are offering things like in the place that you're at, and you can get involved there too. You don't only have to do it in like your hometown.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm gonna add that to our list of resources that we'll send out with this recording. So everything that we've talked about tonight, I'm gonna make sure to include when we send this out with the recording. So if there's something in the chat that you didn't copy over, don't fret, you will not miss it. We will make sure that you guys get all of these amazing resources that everyone has mentioned here. We still have a few more minutes. We've got time for maybe one more comment or question. I saw someone joined us from Australia. Thank you so much for tuning in. That's awesome. Any last final questions?
Can I
comments?
advertise an event coming up?
Please do.
Okay, so on July 13th, the Bradenton Marauders are having a Pride Night baseball game. I know it's baseball, it's not my biggest thing on the planet, but they're giving out free Pride flags, I think, to the first 500 people that enter. You can get a special t-shirt and I think a special hat with your ticket. They're having a Pride parade before the game, and also youth, along with Project Pride and a couple other organizations, are having like a Pride in the Plaza at the game itself. So it's going to be a pretty fun gay time if you want to come hang out. July 13th, Lecom Park, Bradenton Marauders.
Thank you for sharing that. Awesome. Well, I'm gonna real quick just share my screen real quick. We had a few other resources that we wanted to make sure that we highlight. Of course, also Youth and SEE Alliance, who provide amazing not only services for the community, but Zander with Sea Power, you know, really getting our community to take action, which is a huge thing that we really like to support here at SRQ Strong, is making sure that we're not only just getting together and talking about these issues, but we're doing something about it, that there's a follow-up afterwards, that there's some kind of movement that keeps this discussion going and keeps it relevant. We also have some additional resources here that we're, like I said, I'll send out this list of resources along with all of the other ones that were flowing into the chat tonight. I'll send it out with the recording that's going to go out tomorrow to anyone that registered tonight, or if you're already a part of our mailing distribution list, you'll get that. So anyone who missed this recording, you'll be able to, or missed this event, will be able to view the recording and share it with anyone else. So unless anyone has any last minute things, I think we can go ahead and wrap up the evening. Thank you again so much, Caitlin, for jumping in last minute, but also just being an amazing addition to this this group of people. Thank you, Emily and Essence and Rex, for sharing your story and being here with us. Thank you, Zander. So excited that we are, you know, we're all of these organizations are crossing over now and really starting to work together, because collaboration is really what we're also about too. So it's really amazing to see everyone come together like this. So thank you again, everyone, for tuning in. And with that, I think we'll go ahead and sign off. So thank you guys. Have a great night.